termed Cardano as like a FOSS, a financial operating system, and nobody likes it, and everybody picks on me for using that term. But basically, the idea is that the world runs on systems, especially the financial world. You have the BIS and SWIFT and all this other stuff, and these protocols allow you to move value around and represent things like identity and allow you to express yourself in some way. And those protocols, for the most part, work well for people in rich countries. And they don't work so well for people who aren't in rich countries. And so the point of what we do, or at least what I do and what my company does, is we think a lot about how do we build a universal protocol that does all the stuff the legacy system has, but just does it better, faster, and cheaper for everybody in the world. And everybody has equal access to it. So it's the people's protocol. You have a situation where the guy in Senegal has the same access that I do, or Bill Gates does, or someone else who's kind of higher on the spectrum of wealth and power. And so that is what we seek to achieve. But then the question is, well, is Cardano the solution? Is that thing? And the answer is no, because you need a lot more evolution. You need decades of evolution to kind of work your way there. And in many ways, the work is never quite done, but it's better than what came before. Why? Because you have a realization that first, the control of the system needs to be more balanced and nuanced, and it needs to be more democratic. So there's this sustainability component of like who's in charge and how do you pay for things. Well, the system can print its own money, so it always has the ability to have a budget. Okay, so there's a treasury idea. And then there's a voting thing. Well, the same things that allow you to move money around allow you to represent votes. So you can do e-voting with the type of system. Okay. And, if you played Nomic in the 1980s or Peter Superfan or any of these things, you can build a self-evolving system. You can actually create a game where the rules can be voted on and changed in the game itself. Mm-hmm. Great. Okay. So that exists there. And then you say, okay, well, but this thing still has to touch the legacy world. There has to be cash in and cash out and these types of things. So there's this interoperability thing. You need a Wi-Fi or a Bluetooth moment for the industry because nothing understands each other right now. Mm-hmm. All these chains are blind, deaf, and dumb to each other. And then there's this thing that it has to work at a huge scale, like billions of people. And we've done that, but we've done that with large multinational trillion-dollar companies with centralized infrastructure. We've never really done that with one master protocol that somehow does it for everyone. The closest approximation is probably BitTorrent. And it's a cool protocol, but it doesn't have all the oomph necessary to do something like this. So Cardano is just our first approximation. And like any good system, we wanted it to be self-evolving. So once you get the philosophy out of where's the target of what do you want to do, then you build a community. Now it's over 1 million people strong, and that community keeps growing, and they keep pushing the system in that particular direction. And what's nice about it is if you build the right philosophy within the system, it doesn't need founders. This is the great lesson of Satoshi. It doesn't need founders to be able to get there. So, if you look at the academic side, that's very decentralized. We have more than 30 different contributors for the 105 papers, and that set keeps growing. Within the next 5 years, it'll probably be 200, 300, 400 different scientists from all across the world, some from Russia and some from India, some from China and some from Japan and America and Africa and South America. And the faces change, the languages change, the cultures change, but the process stays the same. And that is a permanent organ within what we have constructed as a system. And it's the same situation entering marketplaces. Like we entered Ethiopia. What are we doing there? We have 5 million people in Ethiopia. We're getting them digital identity, and we're dragging that digital identity into the system because that's the most fundamental thing of a financial operating system. You need to know who people are in order to be able to do business with them, give them credit, be able to give them economic agency instead of thing. But once they're there, they're going to grow up with that system. They're going to deploy applications on that system. They're going to build on that system. They're going to use it every day for getting a loan or payments and so forth. And if they have pain points, what they're going to do is evolve that system to be able to mitigate and manage those particular pain points to a point where the system is competitive for it. So my job is we have this tagline in our company, cascading disruption. My job is to be the first domino. Just kind of knock it over and watch the cascade. And it kind of blows and blows and blows out until eventually, it gets to where we need to go. And what I was trying to think about with Cardano was how do you build the minimum viable set of tools and social processes that once we push the domino, the system will just evolve to a point where eventually it can grow to fill that need, not out of charity, but out of self-interest. So what I did in that video, and I've done in a lot of media interviews, because I think it really helps people understand where we're at in the clock, is face things in terms of generations. And so I said, well, the first generation is Bitcoin. And really the problem Bitcoin was trying to solve is saying every time we want to represent or move value, we need some sort of trusted third party to facilitate that. So can we build some sort of system where we can create some notion of value that can be teleported around the world and it doesn't require a trusted third party? That's it. And it's done in a beautiful way because it didn't try to be anything else. It just was, you only have Bitcoin. You can only do one type of thing. You can only push it. You can do some things on the encumbrances of multi-sig and other things, but that's a one-trick pony as a system. And it wasn't really clear if that was going to work or not for a long time. It took several years to build up enough network effect and for Bitcoins to actually become valuable. And I'd say the inflection point was 2013. And at that point, it became a $1 billion market cap. There were Silicon Valley startups, real exchanges were forming. And it got to a point where there was legitimacy behind the concept. And people started getting, this is a really incredible idea because I can evade capital controls with it. I can move $10 billion of something from one country to another country in 5 minutes. It's I could never do that before. And, some said, this is incredible. Okay. The problem is the minute that people validate the idea, they immediately want something they don't have. So the minute Elon can land a rocket, there's the next big thing, right? You've landed the Falcon 9, now you're on the Starship. Similarly, you say, okay, I want programmability with this thing. It's kind of like when JavaScript came to the web browser. You went from these static, perhaps pretty, but ultimately static non-interactive pages to YouTube and Google and Facebook and these amazing, rich, incredible experiences, because now you can actually interact with the user. You can program things. Stuff runs on their side. Stuff runs on your side. It's a beautiful two-way relationship. So that's what Ethereum effectively did. They bolted a programming language onto a blockchain, and they went from a certain use case to whatever your imagination can have, like sunshine and rainbows and unicorns and these types of things. And so that's what we termed a third generation cryptocurrency. And there's a lot of people attempting to compete in that space. There's Tezos and Algorand and ICP and Polkadot and so forth. And each and every one of them kind of brings a different blend of things that they value. So it's not completely equal between scalability, interoperability, and sustainability. Some people were very focused on high throughput. Lots of transactions per second. Other people very focused on governance, like Tezos is like the governance chain, and they were one of the first to do a self-amending ledger. And other people are like Aeon or Polkadot. They're really thinking carefully about how do we build a nice interoperable ecosystem. With Cardano, we tried to actually tackle all three at the same time, which was one of the reasons why we were a little slower out of the gate. We had to write a lot more protocols, but we think we've kind of come up with a beautiful interlocking design for all of them. And again, the point is not to get it perfect, but rather get those just right set of evolutionary factors that when you click the domino, it just self-evolves into what you need it to get to.